about that. One question I do want to ask you, and I can't wait to see for myself. Just speak to the skill position talent, because now it's not, and no disrespect, this isn't Josh Reynolds, this isn't Alan Lazard, and this isn't Tyler Johnson. Now we're talking about A.D. Mitchell, Omar Cooper Jr., even Aaron Smith is bringing in some passes, and Isaiah Williams. So tell us a little bit, and I know that you've talked about this, but tell us a little bit about the floor being raised and some of the catches and the battles that are going on. I think that there's more talent in the defensive backfield and at the skill positions.
I think especially at the skill positions, like they got players, man, and no matter how many times we talk about the Jets, I feel like we never talk about Isaiah Williams. I think it's clear he's gonna have a role on this team. He's entrenched as their fourth wide receiver, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see a lot of packages where Isaiah Williams is out there on the field. And we've been talking about 12 personnel, but what if Sadiq is not up to speed? Where maybe at the beginning of the year they're using Isaiah Williams and Mason Taylor, and they're spreading it out and throwing a lot more than a lot of us realize here, because they like Isaiah Williams a lot. Glenn raved about his toughness and his blocking. We know Omar Cooper Jr. has impressed and has made some plays. A.D. Mitchell seems like every practice is making a big play. I saw it in person on Saturday where he caught a long touchdown in the end zone. They have players, man. You hope guys stay healthy. That's the big thing. All this sounds great in training camp, but injuries happen, and the Jets defensively have been ravaged with some injuries. The Sadiq injury is the first big injury to the offensive side of the ball. Let's just knock on wood they're healthy going into week one, because they got dudes, man. They have real depth at the skill position players.
What I really love is that Frank has a lot of weapons at his disposal. I mean, you could do 22 personnel, which is two running backs, two tight ends. You could even do some 23 personnel if you really want to get heavy in the red zone, which is two running backs and three tight ends for people following in the chat. And you could, just like you said, Jake, some 10 personnel, which is no tight ends. And then you have Omar Cooper, Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, and Isaiah Williams out there. You're putting guys in motion. I think that there's enough tools in the cupboard for Frank to get extremely creative. So if he comes out and it's no pre-snap motion, and we're just sitting in a base 12 personnel look, and there's no creativity, I think that the season is going to be doomed. But it's not going to be because of a lack of weapons. So just like you said, I think this is the first time where they've had an offense to where I think they could dictate the pace of the game to the defense, if that makes sense. Like they could come right out, Jake, in a trips, in a trips wide set, a 3x1 set. Or I saw Robbie said that they ran like a 2x2. He didn't really want to give away the concept. But again, you're putting Isaiah Williams in the slot and giving him a three-way go. And then you're not going to be able to double Garrett Wilson. And if you are, somebody else is going to beat you. Right. So it's good. And then everything doesn't have to be, a long, deep shot, because Omar Cooper broke 40% of his tackles last year. Isaiah Williams is a great returner. So if you could just dump it off to those guys and then let them do what they do, I think that that's a good way to keep the offense in flow. And then if all else fails, you can just dump it off to Breece Hall. So I think that this is as insulated a situation as Geno is going to be able to have at this point in his career. So I do, there is a reason to have some optimism. So I just wanted to get a take of what it felt like to have the talent floor raised.
It felt like they got real players. That's what it felt like. Like the ball not hitting the turf, that matters to me. It should look clean in practice with a veteran quarterback. Like that's what you want. So again, it's early. It's the Jet defense, which is dealing with some injuries, and Glenn is taking over the play calling, and there's way more questions I think about the defense than the offense at this point, but we will certainly see. The Jake Asman Show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Check out PrizePicks right now. If you're a sports fan, they have something for everyone, especially if you're one of my listeners and you're gearing up for the upcoming Jets season. For player picks on PrizePicks, you just pick a player you like and you go more or less on a few of their stats. Check out some of the numbers they have for some of your favorite Jet players: Geno Smith, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq, and many more. PrizePicks should be your go-to. And check out their new offer right now. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you need to do is sign up and use that code HMA. That's PrizePicks code HMA. Download the app now or click the link in the description to download the PrizePicks app today. And how about this from Leanie, who checks in? She's been a channel member for 35 months. Leanie, you're awesome. Thank you. She says, exactly, Omari. We have no idea what Geno will be, but I do like seeing videos of that nice tight spiral he's throwing. Go Jets. Geno throws a great ball. Like his arm is legit. Like there's no doubt whatsoever that Geno Smith could still make all the throws you would like your quarterback to be able to make. I mean, his arm is live. That has never been a problem for Geno. It's just the decision making, the consistency, how he is under duress. But you could see it in this throw here to Omar Cooper Jr. Geno Smith has got an absolute cannon of an arm.
Yeah, and even the ball placement on some of those, Jake, like that's a good ball. He and AD Mitchell have a strong rapport coming. Like some of those balls to AD Mitchell, it's only where he can get it. A Garrett Wilson touchdown, I think he threw it before Garrett was out of his break. So again, it's all about giving him time. He's going to be able to throw that. You know, when he gets flustered, when he has to go to a second and third read and post snap, that's when we're going to have to worry. But if he sees something and identifies it early, he's slinging it, and it's going to be there on time, and the spiral is going to be pretty. Yeah.
He throws a nice ball, man. He really does. Yeah, I mean,
with zip too. It's right on. Yeah, look at that. It's right on there.
Tight spiral you see on the throw there to AD Mitchell. So we like seeing this, Jet fans. Better than the alternative, and definitely better than some of the reports we were getting about Justin Fields at this time a year ago. Doc Jet fan checks in. What's up, Doc? He says Darnell Jackson was considered a top 75 player after 2024. Jets took him with the 103rd pick, yet he flies under the radar. Any update on his training camp so far? He's gotten a lot of reps, and apparently he's looked good. This was Rich Cimini on our Jets Collective podcast last week talking about what he has seen from Darrell Jackson Jr.
Guy we haven't even talked about today, Darrell Jackson Jr. Remember him, the 4th-round pick?
Yes.
I think he'll be in the rotation on the defensive line. When they first drafted him, I thought to myself, this guy's going to be inactive every week. Well, I don't think so. I think he's got a really good chance to be in what looks to be a pretty deep defensive line rotation.
Is it just because some guys are banged up now and you think he's going to have to play, or he's flashing and you think he's going to earn it?
No, I think he's going to get an opportunity. You know, he was out there today. He is a big guy, and you know, I'm not saying he's going to play ahead of Harrison Phillips or David Onyemata or Briggs, but you know, he'll be out there. I think it's some sort of rotational piece.
I like it. Maybe another Muji under the radar find if they hit on him.
Yeah, I mean, for a 4th-round pick, the talent is definitely there. So Doc is right. I thought if Jackson would have came out after his 2024 season, he probably would have been in the 3rd round in the top 100. But again, to get him that size, he's 6'5", he's 320. He's going to be able to collapse the pocket. And, you know, the one thing that all quarterbacks hate is pressure right up the middle. So if you can get him in there in some favorable matchups, one-on-one, he's going to collapse the pocket, and then he's going to be able to get his hands up because I believe he has an 84-inch wingspan. I've already moved on to the 27 class. But he has a ridiculous wingspan. I saw him at the combine, Jake. He is a mountain of a man. And so he's going to be able to disrupt a lot of that. The biggest thing with Darrell Jackson Jr. is for big guys like that, too. The same thing that Deion Walker for the Bills had last year coming out of Kentucky. They play a little high. So it's always going to be pad level with him. But if you can get his pad level consistency down, and I think the Jets have the perfect guy to be able to teach that in Carl Dunbar, you could have a rotational piece there. You know, it's all about getting guys in, and you and I have talked about this as well too. You know, if you want him to be a professional run stopper and to be elite at that, there's no better person to learn from than David Onyemata, who was top 10 against the run, and also Harrison Phillips. So again, you know, players need to be developed. So you draft a 4th-round pick, you have a veteran that he can learn behind. David Onyemata can mentor him. He can show you can work him in this year, and then next year he can step into that role, and that's what good organizations do.
Patty checking in. I don't know where Patty's in Ireland. Patty, I want to put you in the raffle for 2. We will ship to Ireland should you win a Jets jersey on the show today. I've been reading that some college aficionados really rate Inez Cooper. Could he be a steal? I haven't heard anything good or bad about Inez Cooper. I could talk to Cimini about that later today when we have him on our Jets Collective podcast we do together. I would say this for Inez Cooper. He's going to play a lot in the preseason. So how he looks in the preseason will determine whether or not he could have some sort of role on the team this year. I don't think he's going to start unless there's injuries, but again, the Jets were remarkably healthy once we got to the regular season with their same 5 guys playing every game. At some point, someone's going to go down. That's just football. And hopefully Inez Cooper will get an opportunity and look pretty good.
Yeah, Nes Cooper rated out really well, especially in passing. I think he didn't give up. I think he gave up 1 sack in over 500 attempts. It was something. It was something crazy. So Miami had a good offensive line going this year. Two of their both of their tackles were drafted, Francis Marinoa and Markel Bell. So he was a part of a great unit. He's a big guy. I think he's 6'6", Jake, 332. So he's a bigger guy, and you would think that he's going to be more of a run blocker, but his passing skills are already up to par. And he's physical. That's what you want too. And he was one of those guys running around hyping up the crowd too. So he has that type of energy. And who was it? Was it Membu that said that he talks trash, but he can't repeat what he said?
Yeah,
or something like that, or they might get fined. So look, I always say I like my interior O line nasty. You know, I want them from the middle of the country. I want them nasty. Yeah, I want them to not have friends that are on the defensive side of the ball. So that's what you want. But we'll be able to see, you know, the eye test. But Inez Cooper, what he does need to work on is some of the run blocking. But as a pass protector, I think that you could plug him in right now and you'd be able to get a suitable play.
With Omari Brown. Leon says, Glenn said Sweat, Osai, and Pons already have locked in roles. That was a little nugget that I think kind of flew under the radar. We know Sweat's going to start. We know Osai probably starting in the base package. But Pons already having a locked in role, starting nickel week 1. That's what I see it.
Yeah. A lot of fans were kind of thrown off with that, and I'm going to ask you this as well, Jake. Does that bother you that those guys have locked in roles already, or are you of the ilk that every position, even quarterback, should be an open competition? So I'm curious to hear your thoughts because that doesn't bother me at all.
I am not surprised. And I'm not really bothered by it because this is kind of what I expect. Let's not forget they had, OTAs, they had mini camp. Like, if you know, you know. Like, we knew Sauce Gardner was great right away. We didn't need to play games. Garrett Wilson, they did play games with. It was dumb. Like, if you know, you know. Like, if they think Pons is ready to go, like, great. I mean, he was a top 50 pick. He won a national title in college. He was an amazing player. If they think he's ready, I'm with it. I don't have a problem with this. Now, again, if he's just terrible, I don't think he'll last in that role. But like, I think it's pretty obvious with these three, they're going to be starting players for the Jets.
Yeah, what do we think? Did we need to see it? Do we need to see Jarvis Brownlee versus D'Angelo Pons during during training camp to know that D'Angelo Pons is probably going to exceed whatever production that Jarvis Brownlee can do? That shouldn't shock anybody. Joseph Osai was brought in here to be in the base package to be able to set the edge against the run, so you can allow the pass rushers to do what they do. So, and I don't understand. I'm all for open competition. I do believe that there are going to be some players that play themselves into a role, just like Darryl Jackson Jr. I think Az Thomas is doing a phenomenal job to supplant himself as CB2, which I'm hopefully is going to be a CB1 for this team. I think Az Thomas is a cornerback too, but I think for this team he could be a cornerback 1. And I think that there's been some rotations as well in the safety position. I know Minka's pretty locked in, but I do think that there's a competition between Dane Belton and Andre Cisco. So there is competition around here, but there's just certain guys that why mess around? You know that they're going to be good. And D'Angelo Pons, with him, everyone keeps raving about his mentality and how smart he is. So if he's showing that in the meetings, and then he was able to get out there in OTAs and show what he's able to do, I don't have a problem with any of those guys having locked in roles.
Hey, Jake, how you doing? Hey, I'm a little concerned about Sadiq. The whole, built like Tarzan, plays like Jane thing. It just makes me nervous that the fact that he's hurt and we're dealing with that right now. And once again, like you mentioned before, rookie, especially in that position, he's coming in. Now he's going to have like hardly any practice going into the season. So, picking a guy that high and literally just, if you knew that he might miss even the first few games, you wouldn't even draft him at that position, especially. It's not like he's some defensive end that you can't miss on or something. So anyway, makes me a little nervous about that. But, I'm hoping, I'm a fan, hoping for the best. And if you haven't seen, Tierney has an interview with Phil Simms. Have you seen that yet?
I've seen some clips from it. I haven't watched the full thing.
It's long. It's like 2 hours. It's fantastic. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks, let alone analysts too. You listen to him talk. Everybody that's talking about oh, we hope the game hasn't passed Reich by, or any of these coordinators. Phil Tierney outright says, in the game nowadays, everything's really, you got to see it. And ask Tierney when you have on the show later. I'll be watching. Yeah, I'm just saying in case you want to. Anyway, he talks about, I know that the high-end offenses now, they're so sophisticated, and, a lot of the coaches couldn't deal with it nowadays. And he says he does games analyzing every day of the year, and the ones that he's doing, live, of course. He says, I disagree 100%. He said, football's football. You get a good coach, they come in, they adjust, they figure it out. They know what's current, what's going on. In other words, now, not exactly like that, but it was really good to hear coming from a guy like him. Anyway, just like I said, if you get a chance, check it out. And even talk to Tierney about it. And he did talk about, Parcells being the best coach ever. He said that Bill Parcells never made a mistake before, ever. Imagine your quarterback saying he never remembers him ever making a mistake. They were who they were because of him. Talked about his in-game management. He talked about that, an issue nowadays with all these coaches, to where in-game management, he said he never saw him make a mistake, as we saw on the opposite last year with Aaron Glenn. I'm just saying, to hear him talk about a coach like that, when the Jets were getting Bill Parcells, it was so impactful on my life as a young guy. I remember right where I was that day. I was driving. I heard it on WFAN. I pulled over, listened to the press conference. That's how much it means getting a coach like this. I knew, even though I never played for Parcells, I knew that everything was going to be different from then on out. And it was for years, even after he left. But you know that feeling. We don't have that with Glenn, and we're probably not going to. But that's the difference when you get a coach like that. I hope I'm not beating this dead horse like this, but I'm serious.
It's a coaching quarterback league. I mean, you see turnarounds happen quick with the right coach. There's examples constantly of teams going from worst to first in a year with the right coach. I mean, Parcells is the most extreme example because he took over a 1-win team and they nearly made the playoffs in his first year. But by year 2, they were 12 wins and in the AFC title game. Like, he's an all-time great coach, but there's all these turnarounds around the league that you could point to, right? Like, what were the Rams before McVay showed up, or the Niners before Shanahan showed up? They were awful post-Harbaugh for years. Like, there's so many great examples. Even last year, you had Cohen in Jacksonville, or Vrabel year 1 in New England, or Ben Johnson year 1 in Chicago. There's always examples of that. It's a coaching quarterback league. And, people are like, oh, well, Glenn didn't have a quarterback, but Trevor Lawrence was a bust until Liam Cohen showed up, right? Like, again, coaching matters, man. Mike Tomlin was winning games every year post Big Ben without a franchise quarterback, with some very bad to mediocre at best quarterbacks. So coaching matters. Yeah,
and Sims was adamant about, like I said, Tierney with the whole, the offenses are so sophisticated nowadays. He said, I'm watching every week. I see the same stuff, maybe different spins and stuff on it. He said, it's nothing that an NFL coach just can't come in and copy, or, I'm throwing some words of my own out there, but in other words, no, we're making it seem like it's, brain surgery or something. He says, not, I see the same football I saw years ago. Those players could play nowadays. Maybe they're a little faster here and there. He said, all that stuff is not, he said, it still comes down to coaching, quarterbacking, and playing football.
The deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, Asmaniacs. We're built for this shit.